Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter, and this is Mars night, where I am. We are approaching the full moon in Taurus, conjuncting Uranus, mediated by the conflict between Mars and Pluto, and remediating the conflict between Mars and Pluto. So this is a little bit of an energy reading, and there is something about the past 3 to 5 years, 3, 5, 7 years. You may be feeling like you are wrapping up a big karmic circle that's coming to fruition. I talked about, the eclipses that we had with Algol, but I kind of feel like that's when you think about something that happened between kind of 2017, 18, 19, and even 2020, it's those things that we are kind of wrapping up. And I feel it's also somewhat related to the eclipses on Pisces and Virgo. That this lunation is bringing up a certain karmic tie to be severed. Okay, and so you have been noticing that the issue of ritual abuse, and this is also Sun opposing Uranus. So this is the synodic cycle of Sun and Uranus, issues of infiltration to nervous systems, government control, using technology or using the nervous system technology or mind control. Okay, all these weird shit, or using sexual energy to mind control. There's something along this cycle, and the involvement is kind of like the more we reveal, we understand there's a cult behind it. It's a cult issue. It's not just a Peter Ring issue. It's not just an organized crime issue. It's not just a state issue or a government issue or a deep state issue. All these things are involved with some type of cult mechanism, and that's being that karma around that is being wrapped up. So that means that people that did, let's say, ritual sacrifice, okay, mind control, all these things that people thought they could never stand up to, en masse, we're standing up to it. We're scheduled en masse to stand up to it. I want you again to think about the French Revolution and understand it wasn't only the royal families that were persecuted, but also the Masons. And that means that literally everyone that was cult affiliated was persecuted. Okay? And there was a response to try to get, the witches sacrifice and stuff like that. That shit happens on the regular. And so there wasn't anything unique about it except for the fact that it was exposed. Okay? So you may feel, especially if you are associated with the feminine for any particular reason, you don't have to be a woman. But the feminine would be ascribed by these weird cults to anybody who is kind of like on the losing side or on the opponent side, which they believe was the loser, and the whole language of winners and losers, and all that type of dumb fuckery. Okay, so what's happening is that the horrors of mass ritual sacrifice, sexual assaults, infiltration of nervous system, okay, the whole dumb fuckery is going down. So where people once had hidden power, and you could be a man, okay, you could be a man, and you could be, it doesn't matter about what your gender actually is or what your sex is. It's more about how did they perceive you, and did they target you? Were you part of sacrifice of a cult? we cannot ignore all the symbolism around. And if in 2007, when people say cult and they weren't understood, and you would think about, I don't know, what was the guy with the swastika on his forehead? Um, some other Mason, yeah, so we would think about these cult leaders, and they would always have these weird beards, and we kind of look like Julian Assange after 5 years in Belmarsh. Um, but that's not the case, okay? In essence, these are lodges leaders and lodges members in higher rank, supposedly. And that interconnectedness is going to kind of be sorted out, where people kind of recognize the dumbfuckery all around. All their techniques, all their this, all their that, their symbolisms, even the talismans that they use, okay? The thing is, as Lincoln said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. I want you to think back to when Saturn ingressed into Aquarius. This is going to be a pinnacle point for you, because something really, really important happened there. And I want you to think about, yes, 2019, okay, which people say that was the worst year of all. Yes, because there was a ton of ritual sacrifice done. That would be the year before the outbreak of Ukraine war, before the outbreak of COVID, okay, before they started to implement things. So 2019 was a very big year. And I want you to go back to around August, July 2019, or even 2018. August, July 2018. And I want you to think also to the ingress of Saturn into Aquarius. Those monuments, whatever happened in your life, whether it was ritual sacrifice, deep betrayals, it could be around relationships, it could be around mental health, it could be around physical health, it could be around your job, it could be around many things altogether, your housing, altogether. Whatever happened there is coming to kind of like full fruition, full disclosure. And that can take you all the way up to the ingress of Pluto into Capricorn, because now it's on the anaretic degree. So I want you to think about 2008 and 2009, okay? Right before the financial crisis, at the thrones of the financial crisis, what happened there? There was also mass ritual sacrifice, okay? Pluto ingressed from Sagittarius, where we would have a lot of cults, but nobody talked about this, and then into Capricorn, where it would expose the patriarchal cults. Very simply put, the pyramidal cults. Very simply put. So, and with that, you can no longer hide under culture, especially not when these cults are all across the board and all across cultures. And so what happens right now is that all these people and beings that felt like they have power over, and they came with inquisition-like perceptions on really like very archaic things and very, devilish things, okay? All these energies that felt like they have the power, they can do whatever they want and get away with that. They have the power, they have the this, they have the that. They're so secretive, they're so this, they're so that, and they can manipulate the fabrics of time and so and so. All of that, and use it to control and to enslave. All of that is getting karma. And so these energies, they're not used to their new role in society. We're like, those of them that will not perish will be the one that will get used to just live and let live, right? None of those other things will survive in society. this cycle of Pluto, this 300 years, people call it, yeah, we're entering the Dark Ages. And I take it back to my Beta Perseal Uranus talisman, okay? The story of the two lizards. It's a Malawi story, and there was actually a Malawi leader that abolished child weddings at the time, right? After I made the talisman, I saw it. And so a lizard was told to tell humanity that they are saved. And then it was slow, so another lizard came and said, you are doomed. And this is exactly where we are. Okay, if I capitalize on what Crassier Tassio said, if we talk about the cycle of 300 years, yes, we are talking about the fact that all the dumbfuckery that has been happening under the guise of enlightenment, of God, of anti-God, of secularism, of orthodoxy, of government, of anarchy, okay? All the dumbfuckery that was masquerading under every which way is being exposed and purged from humanity. So this is where people would think, okay, we are doomed. That's the quick lizard, okay? That's the one that said, you are doomed. We are going into dark ages. But if you already pay attention, you understand that the golden ages were already being ushered in, because we are already planting the seeds for the golden ages. Some of us is creating half moons and reforesting the Sahara. Some of us are changing the masonry. Some of us are using the very talismans they use and the very deities they use to sacrifice people to, in order to liberate humanity from human sacrifice, or from cruelty to animals. And then you can eat an animal, but you don't have to be cruel to an animal, okay? And so all these forces that had a hold on society by the divide and conquer are now crumbling from within. You know, as Lincoln said, you can fool some of the people some of the time, not all the people all the time. This is the time in history where Pluto ingresses to Aquarius. They must try to fool all the people all the time. So that thing is playing out where they must try to fool all the people all the time, and it is destined to fail. Because the way that they've been doing that in Capricorn, they were ranks, they were this, that were that, and you believe that if you go high up the rank, okay, for example, I worked in McDonald's as a teenager, and I was vegetarian, but I worked because that was the job that I could find. And what happened is I saw very clearly that the people who are higher up in one rank up, they work harder than me, they don't work easier than me. And I working pretty damn hard already, and they don't get sleep, and they can be tethered around from branch to branch. And then there is this stars thing, okay, that they test you, and you get the stars, so you get more informed about the restaurant, about the dining, about the this, and you know, it's good information. You learn to run a place, which is good. But then, if you don't climb up the ladder, you are fired. They don't let you stay. So you see that these Masonic cults, they work in pretty much the same fashion. There are a bunch of other stuff, including curses that happen upon you. I'm not going to put too much energy on the person's channel, but I saw an I think Muslim who was Mason, and he severed ties, and he shows how to sever ties. If you were in the Masons, how to, in lower ranks, how to sever ties in a good way. If you signed with blood, that's, you listen to Satanic Ritual Abuse Survivors, okay? Nobody has right to use your blood against you. Simply put, nobody has right to use your blood against you. And the correction of your karma is basically tending to that and abolishing with Satanic ritual abuse or the ritual abuse, and so on and so forth. But even that person that left the Masons and said, I left in good faith and did everything correct, and they still try to come for him, he said, the minute you enter, you basically have a certain initiation. They don't tell you about it, but you're basically cursed. You're cursing yourself. And I'm half Dutch. We have a lot of lodges in Netherlands. Even people say hell, whole land. Hol is like hell, the land of hell. which is something that I had no idea about. In every place there's like a corridor where they harmed children. Um, and the curse, the first curse I learned is, yes, when they say Chat for dome, and they say May. So Chat is God, for dome is to curse, and May is May. Okay, is me. And that, of course, all canceled. But that, of course, is that's the curse. That's how you curse in Netherlands. Okay, maybe you say doom, but that's it. Okay, that's the curse. And so when you think about joining kind of like a lodge or a place like that, you're basically cursed, and they try to make the family betray you. um and these are ancestral curses of ailment, of this, of that, so that you won't disclose the secret, and then you're supposed to kind of control the world and try to remedy that. So a lot of people are wanting to get out of the lodges for this reason, and then they chase the people who go out, like a cult, because that's a cult. And so those forces felt like they got a hold on you. They felt like they could win the race. You are enslaved, you are this, you are that. And now they find out that that's not actually the case. Pluto has been exposing them. You can read 33 Mason degrees on social media. Information is pretty much open to most people. You can read about Opus Dei. You can read the Magnum Opus, which is a wrong title for a book that tells you about all the degrees that they teach in the Mason, that not all can be free. Okay, you can read all about that. You can watch Trudy Verstegen, and you can see that the idea of depleting the feminine, depleting the masculine, cloning people. Okay, there's all kinds of information about that, and that information is very true. And so all these forces thought that they could infiltrate it. This is why you couldn't divorce. Just today I found there was a Facebook. A woman and her husband had a business, had estates, had everything. They had 3 kids. They had an agreement which for 10 years she will grow the children and then go to study. The husband didn't stand in this agreement, and she wanted divorce. He began to be abusive financially and emotionally and all that, and in all hidden ways. And he went bankrupt. So she basically got left with nothing. And nobody really helped her. And the help that came here was trying to separate her and the children, and so on and so forth. And now we're trying to help this woman to know her rights, first of all, because she shouldn't have to sue the husband. That could bring him even more to try to kill her. Okay, for example, reason my parents got divorced fairly okay. There was a police involved, but it was fairly okay. It was because nobody required anything from my father. In this case, my father, for some men, it's the mother, okay? If she's a businesswoman, if she's a cult woman, okay, that's the same. And that's something that they really try to isolate a person, disable a person from working, so that they won't be able to grow the children, to try to kidnap the children, to mess up with the person, to try to hospitalize the person. Why? Because they got a divorce, because they weren't happy in their marriage. Okay? And so you may feel like all these forces that you ran into in 2007, 8, 9, in 2018, 2019, that all these forces had the upper hand. Okay? Now, it's not like that. They're all exposed. They no longer have the upper hand. The more they target people, the more power they give basically to the targeted individual to use against them. And the more they do black magic, it backfires, even if they gather in groups. And if they try to move around, they get frozen because they did those spells on people. They binded people. It's literally, if you listen to, just Google people get out of the Mason, to say you bind yourself when you join that. And they try to bind people that never consented to be Masons, that never joined the Masons, that never joined intelligence. Like, we never consent. I do not consent. I never consented. And it doesn't matter if I buy a product, if I this, if I that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which product. If I do a manicure, it doesn't matter. I don't consent. I never consented. I do not consent. Okay? And so I'm not bound by any of these contracts. But who is bind is those that try to bind. And they're literally, they can be physically frozen. It works all that way. They're physically frozen. The way they try to freeze you, to do trauma to you, that you won't be able to move, whether through pills or olanzapine or beta blockers or Seroquel, and all these things are exposed. So now there is back to sender. Okay, so now they don't have this power, and you may feel that that's a cycle that's been going on. Maybe you decided to protect yourself, or you're working with a talisman, or you're working with something, and then you realize, hey, there's something that keeps coming back here, and it looks like, what is that about? Well, that's about severing ties with that. And those people that send that, whether they did ritual abuse or they did, I don't know, binding you through divorces, through marriage, all these things, they are now the severing ties. They no longer have a hold on you. Okay? And so these forces, they find it very difficult to accept that, because they were used that they can control and get away with that. And people want sovereignty. That's the drill. They want sovereignty in Aries. In Pisces, they want the freedom to be, to flow, to be whoever they are, and not be bound by all this weird shit. Okay, Jupiter is about expansion. It's about optimism. It's about growth. It's about positivity. Okay, if a person that is Jupiterian, okay, tries to focus on the positive and everybody tries to infiltrate, they're like, okay, let's just be positive about the fact that I can kill all infiltrations, invert back all the inversions, and so on and so forth. And that's going to be their positive focus from now on, and retrieve the dream. So all those who try to mess with that are very used to having power over people, very used to sacrificing people, whether it is elite, whether it is musicians, whether it is intelligence, whether it's even people that, whistle blowing on one hand, but when it comes to actually live and let live, you would expect certain things, and I mean it even in a hidden way. Okay, people that try to recruit you, and they whistle blow only because they try to recruit you. So when you don't consent, they try to infiltrate your dreams and do all the things that they said up against, and so on. So that's the thing, okay? That's not gonna go. The people that felt like they can have a hold on you, they no longer have a hold on you. That's very simply put. They simply no longer have a hold on you. This is what Saturn did in both Capricorn and Aquarius. Okay, so the ingress of Saturn to Aquarius might have been a time where you were getting rid of a certain hold on you, and that certain hold on you was by the structure, by the government, by certain facilities, by this, by that. And then comes Pluto. And what Pluto does, it composts, it literally composts anything that no longer serves you. Okay? That's Pluto. It composts what no longer serves you. It rejuvenates the places where you've been depleted. Okay, it composts all that's been depleting you and your energy. And that, depending on if it is a trine for you, a sextile, or a hard aspect like a square. I'm 40, I'm in my Pluto square, and it's indeed very intense. But that's what Pluto is coming to do. This is where you really compost all that no longer serves. If when Saturn ingressed to Aquarius, said, I allow everything that no longer serves me to die. Okay, to simply die. Whether it's habits, people, environments, and so on and so forth. Pluto might be where you assert your power. Now, if you've been using Pluto to assert power over others in a way that imposes you over them, that no longer holds. On the other hand, if you've been recovering from that, if you used to either be controlling or controlled, you might be going out of this 22 catch into sovereignty. And so the forces, both the internal forces that would get you to be obsessive compulsive towards another, and those forces where would get somebody to be like that towards you and oppress you, both these internal mechanisms and the external, they no longer hold. So you might find out that, aside of, writing message after message after message to block the energy, okay, then, or writing post after post after post, I can do magic. I can do, I can act in front of, I can warn authorities about what's coming to them. I can record a video online that shares the story and how to do things. Okay, I can move the soil around. There are many other things that I can do, and I'm using my power to assert my boundaries. And those powers that were used to be in control, they're not used to being. Their experience might be to be this, that they are now disempowered, but they're only disempowered from the power that had used malefically, from the places they have been abusive. They're disempowered from that. Nobody buys that anymore. Nobody believes that. And this is only the beginning, because as Pluto is ingressing to Aquarius and Mars is going to be in Leo, that's speaking truth to power. That literally is speaking truth to power. Nobody is going to, you want to think about the teenager. Aquarius is kind of like the teenager. And the teenager, they speak truth to power. The teenager, whether you're the mother, the father, the guru, the this, the that, they speak truth to power. They don't have time for your authority anymore. Because your authority has only served them so much. But the places where your authority is being oppressive and outdated and archaic, and your moral standards have been tyrannical, then they speak truth to power. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have, how many estates you have, how many intelligence you have. If you think that to rape someone is in some constellation other than that person just raped you and you're like, taking back your power, okay, then you're on the wrong side of the scale, to very simply put. You're living in the archaic world where that was okay. And that was never okay, even relative to in no time in history was that ever okay. And you thought you could get away with that because you do that either in energy or in secret places or in this or in that. You keep a secrecy around that then you're going to be exposed. And again, and there's, again, there are various degrees. There can be some person that maybe did that once, understood that they were wrong, and stopped doing that, or tended to stop doing that. And now they can find the cure for that. They can help others. They can inspire others. I had an instructor for healthy sexuality that told me I was raped, and I was sexually offending men as well. And I stopped both that and that. Okay? Because she was both raped and she also raped. Okay? Hurt sexually. If she was in sex with someone, it doesn't matter what, legal stuff is, like, that's rape. And she said, I stopped doing this and I stopped doing that, and began to teach about healthy tantra, how for people that have first time sex, so how to do that where it's not supposed to be hurting anyone, and so on. So these people are not going to get karma because they already tended to that. If ever, they might get karma with the fact that, hey, I saw that you did that, and I realized that that was not okay, and now that you changed, so that person see that their rapist recovered, and their rapist is no longer doing that, and they take accountability and they change the world, and they can feel that, oh, there's closure. They know that they are not to blame for what happened to them. Okay, so it's not like it's going to be for everybody. But those people that as now still try to rape people under the cover, yeah, I mean, they're losing their hold on people. People are losing their fear to talk truth, to power, because enough is enough is enough is enough. People cannot oppress themselves even anymore. That's what it means. All the signs, Uranus Beta Persei, solar eclipse with Ketu in Libra, at the very face of purging that with Ketu on the steel in Zendaya. 2 eclipses with Ketu and Zendaya. Two eclipses, one with Ketu in Zendaya, one the solar or lunar eclipse with Zendaya. Okay? No longer people pleasing, no longer self-oppression, stating fierce boundaries, telling truth to power, not being able to oppress oneself. If anybody holds any of the patriarchic notions, and it's usually about women, okay? It's usually about women. A woman should like this, she should dress like that, she should respect herself like this, she should go fuck yourself! Okay? You're not gonna tell a woman what to do. And that may be a daughter saying to her father, go fuck yourself. You and your patriarchal rapey notions that maybe brought me to the world through rape, fortunately not me, but that dumb fuckery where you show the sheets with the red blood on the zit to show you raped your wife, who happened to usually be very much younger than you. The Pluto Scorpios, guys, girls, peeps, women, ladies, gents, 2 genders, 4 genders, no genders. The Pluto Scorpios are Pluto Scorpioning. No longer the archaic patriarchal notions gonna go. And then the people who try to siphon on someone's sexual energy and then call them succubus, right? What is succubus? Is a pack of old patriarchal men jogging off to some sigil, trying to siphon energy from women and then calling them whores and succubus. I said what I said. no longer will that go. Pluto Scorpios are getting 40 now. Okay, the Pluto Libras were like, yeah, you know, a woman can get a divorce. No, you can't rape a woman in marriage. Marriage is not a contract that allows you to rape. Unless it also allows her to murder you. And it allows her to murder you. Okay, that was the Pluto Libra. The Pluto Scorpio takes it one step ahead. Whatever we didn't achieve with the Pluto Libra, the Pluto Scorpios, they are going to set the tone here. No, you're not going to oppress anyone. Call it men and women and children, call it the feminine. No, your use of sexual sex is wonderful, but if you use it to siphon energy and interfere malefically in the life force of another, you're dead. This is Scorpio. Scorpio have no sex. It's not about sexual shame. Scorpios are not afraid, okay, to explore their own depths. If you try to get it to Scorpio from within, be prepared to die from within. And those forces that were maybe scorpionic as well, that try to get people to die from within, are getting shit fuckload of karma right now. Especially those that believe that they can get away with everything. The tables turn. And that's what happens with this lunation. The tables turn. You cannot, scare people with, because your penis is too small for someone or their vagina is too big for you, and there's genuine lack of physical compatibility, which is also lunar incompatibility. Thank you, Lada Duncheva. You're not going to threaten them by being raped by a nigger, okay? Just to put it simply. And you're not going to do the surgeries that fix the vagina after pregnancy. There's a surgery for the people that do that. It's called the guillotine, including the doctors that cooperate with that. It is what it is. Saturn is in Pisces when Pluto ingresses to Aquarius. That's the guillotine for these doctors. I said what I said. Yeah. If you say, Shirley, what about genitalia mutilation? What do you think? does that have some sort of like a golden throne where you're like, no, you can't touch the touching of genitals in children with knives? No. That's not sacred. You cannot hide under culture. In Africa, they're abolishing that for a reason. No, when you talk about in our culture, we do this, in our culture, we do that. Ethiopian culture, Jewish Ethiopians, they come and they make injera, which is a very, very healthy type of bread. It's one of the healthiest type of breads. And they have a process where they do that, and it has a distinct scent. You can like it, you can dislike it, but you cannot not smell it. Okay? So a lot of people in the real estate, it was a real problem. People were living in buildings, and you have one person cooking that, you're not used to the scent and you dislike it, and it can be tremendously challenging. It's not about, racism or anything like that. So there's something that you can say, it's our culture. Okay? Anybody want to talk about the Black Pit Matters? I don't think that's culture. Okay? But crimes against humanity, you cannot hide under the word culture or religion or stay in your lane. Accusing people for their rape, that's not staying in your lane. Like, really. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. And so what we're feeling right now with this full moon is those power shifting shift. If in the past, if a woman or a man left the violent relationships and people said, well, let's find you a job, let's get you independent, you were financially dependent, you were this, you were that. I read today, the Facebook post that I read was of a woman that was a businesswoman, married to a businesswoman. They had estates. And it wasn't like they were the people that were taking a loan thinking the tenant will pay. They had estates, they had assets, they were running things very likely okay. Okay, I don't know everything about the business. She was a businesswoman, he was a businessman. They had very likely shared account because it's easy to dissolve a business. This is for Empress Butterfly. You gotta watch with that because one partner can get the business account bankrupted. Okay, so yeah, you have your own shared account, but this is about something we need to tend to. And so and everybody's been taking that tip, okay, to run a business account if you're a couple. So yes, you can dissolve it more easily in divorce, but when it comes to your company, one person can get the company bankrupt, which is what the husband did. And that woman had an agreement that 1 decade she's going to raise the kid, then she's going to study and he's going to support that. So 1 decade she's supporting him, stay at home, and the other decade she's supporting her and she goes to study. Okay? He didn't stand in this agreement. So she wasn't financially dependent on him. There isn't some particular lesson that she needs to learn about to hold her life together. Nor should she be dealing with the person that gets the business bankrupt all by herself because she said no to abuse. And that very likely person is very likely Mason because that's called behavior. We know the drill. We know the drama. We know what they do. We understand the technique. He didn't one day thought to himself, yes, I'm going. The minute she says no, the minute she says she wants to study, I'm cutting off everything. She's going to have no money. She's going to be dependent on me and do what? Sex work, espionage. So we know you are Mossad or Shabak infiltrated. It's not even Mossad or Shabak because you are not. That was Israel. That was not. Like, we know that that's the drama. So you think you're going to leave her with nothing and the welfare will be left with nothing. Now you're going to be exposed, whoever you are. No longer holding on to people in that way or enslaving people in that way. So you see, if in the past you would think, oh, come on, let's find a job, let's learn this. You were dependent on the husband. Now you need your financial freedom. Now you need this. No, she need a fucking vacay. She and the 3 kids. She need a freaking vacay. No surveillance. See, when I told Royce, who are your clients? The solitary women on the beach. She should have been being on Ibiza with a babysitter for the 3 kids and reading your book. But would you represent her? There's a lot of money there with the husband, but you'd have to protect her life. Maybe. Yeah, expect dividends if that's arranged. Not from her. From your money. I said what I said. No longer will people have this hold on the people that they were used to have power over. No longer will it happen. And those people that were used to that, lived on enslaving people, they are very slow on the process because they feel disempowered. They have basically obliterated all the support mechanisms for themselves when they did not allow, when they try to enslave a person so much that they can't go out of the cult, they basically enslave themselves. Now they're going through intense crisis where all those coping mechanisms, all this gaslighting, all this lawyer crookery stuff of trying to do defamation to the victim basically is no longer working. All these inversions no longer working. People learn those tricks and they understand it's no longer. They see the oppression, okay? And they cannot with that. Because at first you think you're going to work, you feel depressed. So you take a pill and it doesn't help. And then you take another pill and you get into debt because you get manic. And then you have a divorce and your kids are taken from you and they put apotropos or they put this or they put that. Then you get all your rights taken from you and then they want to put you in a hostel and to abuse you there. So maybe you murder a nurse one day. Now you're going to be in jail. Okay? So enough people see that and they're like, well, that trajectory has become way too familiar. And it has happened to enough people. Like I said, you can fool some of the people some of the times, not all the people all the time. And all those people that try to play the savior but were actually the next diddler, they're getting karma. Because people identify the pattern. If I cannot say yes, no, and maybe to you, if I cannot disagree with you without being worried about where will I sleep tonight, what will I eat, when will I get to rest, then you're losing power. Yeah, you lost your legitimacy over the monopoly over power, whoever you are. If once upon a time choosing your battles was, well, if you had your steady job and you steady this and you steady that and you got divorced, so you say, I'm choosing my battles. Okay, when my parents got divorced, my mom said, I'm choosing my battles. But now a person cannot choose their battles with the battle being the lower battle, okay? The battle being, okay, I'm not going to tend to the bigger battles. I'm going to tend to my day-to-day life. And that's going to be my battle. I'm going to focus on me, on my success, on my endeavors, and so on. But when it was so much so that the person cannot say no to violence, that they have to pick the biggest battle ever, which is satanic ritual abuse. In the past, yes, you could shush a person and they would go live somewhere else. And then you could say, what people would say is that, hey, if you stayed here, you chose this. No, but you made it impossible to leave. So you choose the biggest battle, which is satanic ritual abuse. And ritual sacrifice of children, which is why that all dumb fuckery went on to begin with. That's the time. That's the anoretic Pluto, and that's the Pluto ingress. If you tend to that battle, you're tending to the actual problem. You're moving mountains. I'm literally moving mountains. I'm building the half moons in the mountains. I'm moving mountains, okay? If you still, those forces that can still think like, choose your battles, don't make it too much of a big deal, don't that, they have disallowed actually following that, because you cannot just live your daily life and just live in peace. They have disabled you from just living your daily life in peace. So they sentence themselves to death doing that. That is what happens right now on the full moon. There's a full disclosure of that. And the sun is in Scorpio, degree of those hidden manifesting things, the dream state, the more ethereal, the drug stuff, with Jupiter, Gemini, and Mercury, Sag. Okay, it's also Mercury. It's also the shade of Mercury retrograde. So what we're tending to now, we're going to get even more. We're going to correct even more things, and then we're going to go direct on this. Okay, so what we're getting, the details that we are getting wrong now is to maybe the name of the lodges, the name of whether it's Rosicrucians, Masonry, the name of this, the name of that. Like everybody gonna get the name right by the time Mercury goes direct on the very spots it's indirect on. And the square to Saturn is deep karma. Is deep karma, because all of those that thought that they can do satanic ritual abuse, which is Saturn Pisces, with trade, then their trade gets stopped. For example, in Israel, they postponed the digital ID to 2026 because of bureaucracy. Okay, they had to postpone that because they themselves, because what happens, they were trying to see, will people comply, and people were like, fuck Israelis, they will burn a branch of the postal services, they will burn a branch of the welfare services, they would do that, and they already did that. If you are in a more compliant society like North Korea, that's more problematic. But this is also why it's important to disobey tradition. Okay? And so what happens is that right now, all of these powers use all of their power, which is simply meaning they are crumbling from within, and they are imploding into themselves. That's what's happening. Because when you understand, when you are holding this energy of assertion, they try to fight against it, they lose the battle. You keep your peace. Because all of the gaslighting is no longer, all of the scare tactics with the dream state, with the this, with the that, is no longer. And you also remember that they were doing mind control to freeze your nervous system, and you're sending it back to center, so they're also physically frozen. And all this energy, they won't be able, they're gonna be so depleted that they won't be able to come out of it. And they did it to themselves this time. What they try to tie you up in, okay, if you're suffering from that, now is the time where they are doing that to themselves. Because what they're trying to do, and those are fixed energies, okay? The Scorpio Taurus is a fixed energy. They were trying to get you to give up. And what the thing is that the more they were trying, they invest power in you. So what you actually do is you say, I am, and I do not consent. I am safe, I am free, you are binded by your own binding, and I do not consent. All that you send to me is sent back to sender. And all the forces are working in your favor. That's it. No longer would they put this on you, pull that on you, pull this on you, pull that on you. Nobody. Anybody coming to take you down is taking themselves down with whatever they come for you with. They are taking themselves down with that. So for some of them, the guillotine will be mercy killing. Again, you can fool some of the people some of the time, not all the people all the time. We can laugh at Milton Hurricane, okay? We can laugh at Milton Hurricane. But that we can laugh for 5 seconds and then it's like, okay, that thing is boring. We can laugh at laser acronyms for investment in real estate. And watch Maui. We can laugh at that. That's really funny. And then we expose that dumb fuckery. It was very funny where people during COVID, okay, were making fun of it. Yes, it was very funny. Pyramidal and extra pyramidal. Yes, it's really funny. Side effects, pyramidal and the extra pyramidal. But then that the joke, okay, it loses its power. There's a difference. If the joke is to enslave humanity, yeah, we're gonna laugh at the joke, but we're not going to roll with that. If the joke is in favor of humanity, this is the joke that becomes reality. If the objective was to enslave and to slaughter, it's not achieved. And this is what is happening right now. This is the full moon where we let go. sever ties, close the cycle. As Gracia Tassio said, they see that the agenda, the way they try to push the agenda, the 2030 agenda, the World War, the Perpetual War agenda, the enslavement of humanity agenda, they see it's not, there's something is closing of cycle right now. It's not working. Digital ID postponed to 2026. The pumping in the media, most of you will not make it to 2025. Most of you will, because all those things that need to change are finally changing. And that's just the fact. When you understand that all those physical attacks you were afraid of, they were accompanied by psychic attacks that make you freeze, and you send it back to sender and you defreeze from that, basically, then now they are frozen physically, in spirit and in matter. What they sent you, they get back. And so for whichever struggle it is in your life, or if in the past you didn't get help, okay, like that woman on Facebook, she was so happy how people helped her, but now she doesn't know what to do with the money. And I'm like, what helped you? Where is your housing? You have 5,000 shekels income with 3 kids. Where is your housing? It doesn't even cover the rent. You went through CPTSD with abuse from the husband, financial, psychological, emotional, who knows if not sexual abuse, and even if not, they will siphoning your energy, which is your life energy, which is your sexual energy, then that's sexual abuse. You need a freaking vacay. They were not helping you. They're trying to separate you from the kids, get you on psychiatric tagging, confiscate your income, trade the kids, and then trade you. Now, but you need to know you're right, because you deserve money regardless of whether you sue your husband or not, for you and the kids, and you deserve your own apartment regardless of your ability to work. And the cure for schizophrenia is housing first, independent of your ability to work, for unlimited time, close to nature, of course, support for the kids, and to believe your testimonial. You're not imagining. Nobody watches the sky anymore. And for example, in Israel, this is November, we didn't have rain. It's almost December. Okay. We understand what is going on. Nobody watches the sky anymore and think that this is not a painting handmade by humanity. Nobody watches Maui anymore and doesn't understand that laser is investment strategy, that basically that's how it looks. And it doesn't create leverage to anyone. Because life in a bunker in Albania is not luxurious. And when they replace the people with robots or with automation, those that they were told that they will survive this They're going to, who's going to keep them, right? They know what was the plan. Who's going to keep them? We know how it works, the structure. If a refugee came to Germany years ago and he would beat the wife, he would be in jail. Also in Israel, by the way. Because they said, we don't care about your culture. Here you don't beat the wife. And so refugee women integrated into Sweden, into Germany, into Netherlands way better than refugee men. But it's not just a problem of refugees that they would only persecute when that was a refugee and that was a local. They wouldn't. That's how you get the statistics. Because that would be cult affiliated, and that's just the usual human sacrifice. It's just more hidden. But any conclusion here that assumes that it is still okay to beat the wife or beat the husband is the wrong conclusion. And all across the board on a world scale, we're purging that. A penis that is used to scare people becomes flaccid. A penis that is used as a weapon becomes flaccid. Impregnating that is used to oppress somebody hurts fertility for both genders. But definitely if somebody is having wealth and they're doing that to someone who doesn't have wealth, then what do you think will happen with that wealth? It's a wealth transfer, because you don't bring babies with rape to tie in the feminine to take care of your supposed legacy, because that would be oppressive to the children as well. Your children are not your children. They come through you, not from you. Though they're with you, they belong to themselves. Okay, this is, I don't remember, it's not Rumi. Is it Rumi? I think it was a Sufi Muslim that wrote this. Okay. And they wrote this for a reason. It came from somewhere. It was a teaching that somebody needed. Children are very involved with what's happening right now. All these forces that thought they could hold on what's becoming is basically that they find out they have no more holding. There's no more holding over another. People waking up to that. Okay? And the people that only help people if they wear something distinct, or if they this or if they that, it's not gonna hold water. Okay? The old notions of respect that basically means you should be raped and be okay with that, whether you're a man, a boy, a girl, a woman, are not gonna hold water. And what pollutes the water is being purged during Saturn in Pisces, so that when Pluto arrives 20 years from now, we still have some water, okay? Men that abuse women and later cry that they are dried up. Of course, you depleted the water. And what happens with that is that you live in a freaking desert with famine and not enough stamina to make technology to make water for yourself, and cry that you are heartbroken and abused, and she's a whore, and she's a this, and she defends herself from your rape basically until you are exhausted, maybe even to death, because if you try to rape her to death, then you're dead now because of the return to sender. Talk to Jesus. Whereas for most men, if you would be respectful, and you'd see if a woman doesn't know how to appreciate that, you turn away to another because you know that she must have gone through something and it's not your fault, which is really true, then you would move on, okay? But if you are going to this, hey brother, come join in the fraternity, and in the fraternity we rape a lot of women under alcohol and drugs, and then we put it on camera, and then we get a higher rank, and then we rape children, then we get a higher rank, and then we get a job, and then we can marry someone respectable because we have money, and then we disrespect her, and then we slave her, then we get in debt, then now you get not in jail but in the grave, because you buried yourself when you did that to people. And it's not about winning and losses and who is right and who is wrong. For some of you, the full disclosure is about investments. Okay, again, there's the Mars Pluto conversation, and the ruler of Pluto is in liquid assets. So you see, like this woman that had a company, she was a businesswoman with her husband, lots of assets. He immediately went into debt. I don't know how he did that so fast, but he did, leaving nothing of her own in what she brought to the table on her name. Okay? So that's another conversation. What were they invested in? Were they invested in laser? Now, for some of you, that's a big crisis. Okay, 29 level of financial stock crisis, especially upon the ingress to Aquarius. And yes, this is giant. It's not big, it is giant. Okay? And when you get into a crisis, you need to vacate. And you can't fool your body. You're gonna get sick or you're gonna die. So the old notions of rehabilitations, they don't work. Okay? When I had, let's say, a dream to study, to have a degree, and so on, and the crisis led me to do that, then yeah, for a while that worked. Later, I needed to freaking vacate. I thought I'm going to work on my business and so on, but I felt depleted. Then that would be a no-go. All these notions of rehabilitations, they don't work because they don't match humans, and this is by design. They know that it doesn't work. The initiations that these people go to, they curse themselves. They know that it doesn't work. And it's done on purpose by design. So for some of you, that's just, if you've been investing in pharmaceuticals, if you've been investing in weapon tech industry, you're thinking like maybe you're Israel, it was like, oh, that's to defend the country. Well, laser is being used to destroy your country right now. If you're still invested in a cure to cancer, okay, now, and this is not blame. Now would be the time to tend to these things. Now would be the time to pull the money. Now would be the time to change up things, because all of these investments are not yielding. Now would be the time to get to know that there are cures for cancers that are not torture, they're just not marketed, and budgets stopped and people return to death. Okay, now would be the time to pull the money from the funds and require as investment. Okay, if a lot of people you do that and say we require for marketing the products that were made to cure cancer, there would be cure for cancer. You would be invested in that and you'll be sharing dividends. Okay? Put $1 there for me too. Because this one's gonna compound on the real. It's not gonna compound on human trade. That's my thesis. If I'm cashing in, I'm cashing in on life saving, not on causing ailment and then pretending to be a savior. With torture, of course. If you're invested in new approaches to treat mental disorders, then housing first, open dialogue, believe in the patient, sovereignty, respect, and independent housing, believe in protecting the whistleblowers, the political whistleblowers, because if you got out of violence, that was, you're gonna learn it was actually political. Is what I understood myself. I didn't know that myself, but now I shared that information with you. If you invest in such housing projects for people that are independent of ability to work, of government, of diagnosis, then put $1 there for me too. Going to share with you the dividends on your compound. That being a generous investment and generous dividends for the tip I just gave you. Do not go bankrupt on laser, real estate, or on pharmaceuticals. Okay? Go to people that studied the subject. I studied the subject. I studied philosophy of medicine with the question of the body, mind, okay, spirit and matter in the medicines, complementary and alternative. and I've also experienced that on my own self, okay, and being exposed to information. Sometimes it's just what I told you with cancer. I was just teaching some family doctor German. They were buying a house in Germany, and some of the very basic German. I said, I don't know German completely, but here's basic things that I can teach you, and I charged for that, and I made money like that. Okay, you charge for what you can deliver. You don't have to be genius to make money. Okay, you just have to provide value and say, this is the value that I can provide, and not to go overboard, not to promise what you can't deliver. And if you can a little bit over deliver. Then we talk about my thesis, and she tells me, well, I have a colleague that's doing research, and there was terminal cancer, and they got into remission, and then they stopped the budget, and it was a pill. It was not like torture, like chemotherapy, and I don't know why the budget stopped. That was before COVID. I think that if I had a dollar for, or euro for, if I had a Swiss franc for every, I can see this, I'll go talisman working on my Swiss francs on Swiss bank. If I had a Swiss franc, okay, for every such research, I genuinely believe you would have to pay me to get into entire Europe, Russia, China, Ukraine, Northern America, and the Middle East at least, and Congo, just for the many times there was a research with the cure for cancer. Okay, this is my bet. A solid intuition. How many universities, how many research? We did the research on earthquakes, and we went to the center where they explore that. They work in such a way, you get students. Every 2 years, they change the students, and everybody works on the research like it's a fucking Chinese industrial shoe company. And who's gonna find the patent for curating earthquakes, which I did, and the partner with me on the research did. We both had distinct ways to get that. They have their own ideas, me my own ideas, both are valid. It's a chaotic system. Okay, just who's gonna find the patent when nobody's credited for it, and you change students every 2 years, and you're gonna use the patent to create earthquakes. This is done right now. This is why you get earthquakes on the triangles, and not on the T-squares. A T-square is a form of triangle, but that's the natural occurrence of an earthquake. Okay, it's a harsh T-square with the elements and so on. The release from the T-square is the most dangerous. Okay, but you see, every triangle, then we can have an earthquake, we can have it here, and they identify the location because this is a pyramidal lodges that are doing sacrifice, and whether it's doing underground or whether they send something, okay, they send pulses to the earth, they explode stuff inside the earth, and then you have an earthquake, and you were precise almost to the letter. Same way you regulate heartbeats, you regulate brainwaves, and you regulate earthquakes. It's not a big deal that you regulate weather. It's done, but it's done on the malefic side. That could be done on the benefic side as well. And again, if you've been invested in these things, now is the time to pull the energy back, to pull the resources back. Okay? Now would be the time. If your insurance money is invested in real estate investments, so you're not taking loans, but you got other people that are taking loans that when they don't have the money and you're invested in their investments, that's laser, darling. The laser gonna come up and ruin the entire city. So you think you got leverage, but you ain't got nothing. And the credit score gonna confiscate your money. So you lost all of your investments, and all the leverage that you think you had was on a currency that is extinct. That works for the inner stuff currencies as well. Currency is currency, right? Because it's what you do with that. The JP Morgan generation of the double times the whole of the toothpaste, and the 10% of your monthly expenses is your monthly return, and then 20% interest on the rest, and that's just the line you're being told at the end of the sales conversation with the credit card company. Okay, that generation is, okay, changing or dissolving from the earth, very simply put. When cryptocurrency began to be mined by a corporation, it stopped being crypto and started being a corporation. We are just finishing up with the age of corporations. That's Pluto on the anaretic degree. We got a couple of days before November 19. Those that threatened people with gang rape are now gang killed in the war, and rightfully so. And those that did that are now gang killed in the war, and rightfully so. Perhaps that's some of the story of Congo. Not all of it, but definitely some. I just saw two Bedouin women today. One of them was looking at my toe separators. She wanted to know, where did I get that? Tell her you gotta have shoes that are compatible as well, because what you're working with is not compatible. So I gave her the name. And we talked some, and I said, well, you know about this desert. It wasn't the desert. You couldn't see the back of the camel with the vegetation. But then what happened? Okay, they murdered the girls. They murdered anybody who didn't want to marry, and it became a desert, right? She says, absolutely correct. And I said, what happens now? 200 men every month die, Bedouin, kill each other. They kill each other, not Israel, not Palestine. They just kill each other. They depleted the water, now they're depleting themselves, okay? And she said, I sent my children to study. You know, she told me, you don't know how many men come to me, they offer, they want to take the hand of the child. I said, no, she will study, she will do whatever, okay? But if she will study and she will run into the cult, then the cult has to go down, because the mother didn't protect her daughter for the daughter to be gang raped at the cult, right? even if she is Bedouin, because to them it's the feminine of the feminine. I don't know what the dumb fuckery, right? They have all kinds of dumb fuckeries for people. I saw a conversation between two black men. One said, my father was in the Masons. There are Masons everywhere. The other said, yes, you are correct, but we must forget that racism still exists, and there's a reason they opened a special dodge for this type of black men, and also for women. And so that is true, and that is true. They're both right. And they were very respectful to each other. Can could disagree and be very respectful to each other. He said, I don't mind being standing corrected. So it's a conversation we have. But if all of these lodges do all of these things, regardless of their women lodges or men lodges, then the problem is the lodges, and we can't put it on the Americans, okay? I mean, it's going to work for a while, but then there is your community, and they said it right. They're going for South Africa. Who said they're going for South Africa? Was it Jag? Or was it Butterfly Empress? They're going for South Africa. I don't remember. The next stop is South Africa. Well, the next stop is North Africa in 2027, but South Africa, okay, we got to reiterate Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was the way out of it. But he was controversial within his community, so it took 28 years that his Saturn cycle that he was in jail. Very smart man. You should listen to Nelson Mandela himself, not just the half quotes that you see, but all these groups that take them to their agenda. I remember when Peace Now or One Voice Israel and One Voice Palestine turned to V15, they began to have a campaign, and they were quoting, they were lefties, okay? They began to have a campaign quoting Jabotinsky that was totally right-wing. And I'm like, can we just give reverence to the fact that Jabotinsky was not a left-wing? But we plagiarized him. Okay? It's like Biden quoting Donald Trump and saying that is blue. It's not blue, it's red. And V15 turned into October Seife. And it was not just the lefties. Left, right, they're all snuffing children at the same lodge. I said what I said. People are going to speak truth to power because they're sick of being sick of it. And if they have 1 minute that they can voice themselves out to the world without being depleted, assaulted, or this or that, and they will do that. And at the same time, those forces that have been working so diligently and they were relying on basically siphoning energy from people by sexual assaults and all kind of weird rituals and human sacrifice. And now they're kind of like, they're losing that because people learn to get a hold of their own energy. They have learned that you're not a slut for the joint sex, and you let nobody that you don't want into your energy. Okay, you stop being hot when you are oppressive. What makes you hot is really like, oh, there's a person who is a provider of pleasure, provider of this, provider of that, provider of that. And also if someone depletes you, it's your right to take up your space. Okay, then now you're respected. And if somebody doesn't respect that, then enforce that by any means necessary. Never rape them, because then you give your energy to them, right? Like, it's just to make sense. Okay, and I don't believe that I have to say that in so many words, but people care about willing consent, that the boundary that allows fertility. That's very simply put. Otherwise, we would have other values. These values serve something in the world. Okay, it's not that like we decided to make it difficult for men to get any. When both want to have orgasm and have good life. Okay, so it's kind of like, hey, that actually matters. Even when we self pleasure, that actually matters. Okay, that's the thing. So this is the age where you can no longer say, oh, the religious want to, it's okay to have sex. The religious, they want to restrict that. Don't feel ashamed. It's like, no, she's not feeling shame. She's just not feeling that with you. And sometimes the very reason, if you had some rapport and some chemistry, the very reason it has to do with what you intend to do with that energy. If you want to siphon it for some cult mass rape rave, then yeah, then you stopped being hot. Okay, you're no longer sexy, very simply put. Sexy is that which, okay, if somebody first think of you sexy, it's kind of like, hey, I could probably really enjoy sex with that person. And then if indeed that's the case, it's like, oh, they're sexy, I really enjoy sex with that person. And then if they're feeling energized afterwards, they're like, oh, that person is sexy, I really feel energized after having sex with them. And if you both feel energized, and then so you might have to sleep, and you're like, you're glowing, okay. But if you feel depleted suddenly, then it's no longer sexy. Now it's like, hey, whenever I get into this person, I get anxious and depleted and find it difficult to stay in my body and have to set a ton of boundaries. That's just so fucking restrictive. And it doesn't matter if it's a man or woman. There are women lodges out there. Doesn't matter. It's no longer, you can be the hottest man in the world. It's no longer sexy. Okay, I can think Tom Cruise is a very hot and sexy man. Then I know that he's in some crazy cult. And I'm like, well, not gonna work. Okay, I don't want, because if you sleep with Tom Cruise, you sleep with Scientology, and like maybe you can like Tom Cruise, but you don't like Scientology. You don't want to sleep with that. You don't want to have your energy siphoned by that. Okay, it's not about vote. It's about the ritual that they do for to abuse people's energy. Nothing again, no shade against Tom Cruise. It's just putting him on the spot because everybody knows he's in Scientology. Okay. Can think about the person like, damn, they were pretty hot. Okay, then like, well, they're Masons. Okay, then, oh, they're like Masons. They're the 33 Masons. Oh, damn. It's kind of like if you're told they're gay. I mean, Darren Hayes is gay. He's a very hot and sexy man, but he's gay. What can I do with that? Okay, I'll just use my. I'll just look for somebody else to admire in that particular way, because that's not gonna get anywhere, right? But if a person is Mason, it's not like they're gay. It's like that's worse. They're gonna deplete your energy. They're gonna endanger your life. Okay, so it's kind of like, well, they were hot up until this point. We're having a real conversation here. Think about it. You're dating a woman, okay? If she starts to stifle you, she's no longer sexy, right? She doesn't let you your own space, your own time to grow, to develop, to be who you are. It's no longer sexy, okay? That's the Masons. But on a little level. Yeah. There's no way around that. Really is no way around that. And then you would say, okay, then you leave the person alone, let them to their cult and go do something else. And first of all, you hear about the crimes, people need to tend to the victims. But the other thing, it's like they're pretty much not allowing anybody to be. And then what's Masons? That's construction, that's architecture, that's the buildings that we're living in that later have domestic violence and underneath shrines of like satanic ritual abuse and stuff. Like, well, the entire architecture needs to go down. Perhaps in that way, laser is a good investment because it's going to take all the houses down, but we're definitely going to need a different Masons to build them, and that's not the Masons that were depleting people's energy. So, I think we are pretty much at the thrones of the full moon right now. And yeah, that which tried to get a hold on, okay, we will have to understand that that's not the way to be. Okay, that's not the way to be. If a person can't relax into themselves around you, or if a person can't relax into themselves even after they leave you, then they have to heal themselves, right? So all the protocols you've been putting to bind them no longer hold water, and then you find out that's the maritime law. And with that, I'll end.